Welcome to this video on Claude Code with PowerBI Part 1. In this video I will show you how we can set up Claude Code and PowerBI Desktop to work together and automate some coding experience in our PowerBI project files. First things first, I would like to show you my setup and my demo environment. The basis for this video series is a SQL Server database hosted in Azure. I'm using an AdventureWorks demo database, which is a well-known small demo database containing some sales information, product information, customer information, and we will go on and build a Power BI report based on this database. Before we can start, we have to check some things. The first thing is we need to access the server, and the second is we have to know the server name in the database. So in my resource group, I have two elements. One is a SQL server, one is a database. And when we check the SQL server, make sure under security networking that the firewall allows the connection from your development environment. If you don't have done this, you can add your actual client IP address directly here in the Azure portal. Otherwise, you will be blocked and you cannot connect to the server. The second thing that we have to know is the database itself. So from the database, we check the connection string, and from within here, you can see this is the name of the server that we are using, and this is the name of the database where our data is hosted. I have already installed SQL Server Management Studio on my development environment, and we will try to connect to this environment. I have configured Enter ID and SQL Server authentication. For convenience, I'm using SQL Server authentication with my master user against this server and this database. So let's check if the connection is working. Looks good. And from the database, I have only one database here. And the database contains the information and the data from the AdventureWorks. Like I've said, sales data, product data, customer data, and so on. Now what we want to do is to connect with Power BI. Let's start Power BI Desktop. And before we actually start connecting to the database, there's one important aspect. Go to Options and Settings. Under Options and under Preview Features, we have to enable the Power BI project file feature. If you're watching this video later, you may be already in production with this feature, but today we have to go to Preview Features, Power BI Projects, and store the semantic model as Timble format. This is a textual format that defines the data, and when we save as Power BI project, we have a folder containing readable source code artifacts instead of one big binary data file like in the old days in Power BI. So this is enabled, and I'm going to connect to my SQL server. For convenience, I copy the name of the server from the connection and the name of the database from the connection dialog. And because I have done this already, I'm not asked to authenticate. If you connect the first time, Power BI, of course, will ask you to provide credentials. And for our purpose, I'm using the sales data, the product data, and the customer data. And load this data into my Power BI report here, so nothing special. The data is not so big, only a few rows, as you can see. It was very quickly, and looks like we are missing the customer for some reason. So again, I will check. my database and select the customer as well. Perfect. Now comes the important part. We save this as PowerBI project file. So from Save As, browse this device, wherever you want to do this. And I call this Claude PowerBI folder and call it report. And now we have to check that we are saving as PowerBI project file. I will show you the effect of this. Now when we have a look in this folder, you can see we have here a structure with elements. We have the report file, we have the semantic model, we have the report, and under the semantic model we have the definition file, model, relationships, tables, and we have a look at this TIMDL file. You see this is a definition of the table in PowerBI, and as you can see this is text, so it's source code, and our Claude AI can work on this element. So on the next step, I would like to use Visual Studio Code in combination with the Claude Code plugin to start working. I have already installed VSCode, and from VSCode under extensions we have Claude Code, and this will open the Claude Code fenster that we will use for development. So from File, Open Folder, I will open the folder where all the PowerBI project files are saved. And here is the content that we have investigated in the File Explorer already. Claude Code is also started. Make sure that you are using the right plugin here. And the first thing we want to do is to call init. And this will instruct Claude Code to check the content of this project folder, and it will investigate the elements, the files it will find, and it will understand that we are working in a PowerBI report, that we have a PowerBI project file definition, that we have a semantic model, that we have already a few tables loaded, that the table is described in TIMDL format, and it will understand what we are doing. So when we instruct Claude Code to generate code or modify the data element, that it knows it is working in this kind of projects and using the correct syntax for development. So this takes a few seconds, and the result will be a Claude.md file. The Claude.md file in this project is directly placed in this folder, and is specific to this type of project and this element here. You can use Claude.md files in your main folder to instruct Claude Code to use certain definitions or patterns or whatever you want to call it generally, and as deep as it goes you can place this directly here in the project file, and this is especially for this project. Now you can see it has described what's important for Claude Code, but because we have a SQL database and we don't have directly access now to the SQL database, I would like to add more semantic information to this Claude.md file. So when we are developing, Claude Code knows what is a database, what is the purpose of the database, how is the relation of, say, individual tables and constraints. And to do so, I would like to extend this information here about the database. And this can be done by creating a SQL script that describes the content of the database. to do so, I have prepared a prompt, and I will put this prompt to Claude. It says, I'm using Claude Code to build my PowerBI report. My report uses SQL connector to Azure SQL database hosting AdventureWorks Lite demo database. Create a SQL script that investigates the elements in the sales LT schema, like tables, columns, data type constraints, foreign keys, etc. And create a documentation. Make sure the output is already formatted in Markdown syntax and can be included in the Claude.md project file. Now, when we use this prompt and instruct code to generate a SQL script, we will get a SQL script that can be executed in Management Studio. I have already prepared this because this takes a few seconds or minutes to generate the code. And as you can see, this is the instruction that we have to execute. And it tells us, okay, when you're in SQL Server Management Studio, please go to Tools, Options, Query Results, Result to Text, and change the output. So back here in SQL Server Management Studios, from Tool, Options, Query Results, SQL Server, Result to Text, we have to change this here. Then create a new query and change the output from the result grid that we typically use in SQL Server to output to text, because we want a textual description. And I'm copying the complete SQL script here. Go back to Management Studio. So you can see this is a script, including the instructions that we have to do. And I'm going to run this documentation script against my database. Again, this may take a few seconds to generate all the information. And as you can see, after running, it says, please remove the header, Claude.md, and the dashes, and remove the empty lines. Because this is the output. It says, okay, Claude.md. And we have here this Markdown documentation, database schema, and it documents the tables, the details of the individual tables, the data types, the foreign keys, the relations, the constraints, and so on. So a lot of meta information that may be relevant when we want to work with Claude Code. And like the script said, we will copy all this information, paste it into an empty notepad, remove the Claude.md and the dashes, copy this information, go back here to Claude.md, copy this information into the Claude.md, and now we will instruct Claude Code to reread this Claude.md file and say I have added the database documentation in the Claude.md file, reread the Claude.md file, and optimize for further use. So it will reread this document, identify the changes that we have made, maybe do some reformatting, and now we have then a very good, almost complete documentation of the source system that is the basis for our Power BI project. So let's wait a few seconds until it has generated the empty file. And it is done. It has reread the Claude.md file and made some changes. Now we have a very good and complete basis for our Power BI project work. Thanks for watching, and we will see us in the next video part 2. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.